creative living, utilizing today's technology with the best of the past to bring you innovative ideas and up-to-date information for creative lifestyles in today's active world. With your host, Sheryl Borden.
I'm so glad you joined me today for Creative Living. We're going to learn how to turn some old pieces of furniture into new-looking treasures, and we'll talk about optical illusions when it comes to interior design. You remember the old saying, what goes around comes around? People are still antiquing furniture, but the products are just different. Connie Moyers is going to demonstrate a recipe to make your own do-it-yourself chalk paint. Then she'll show how to use it on a variety of projects. Connie's with the New Mexico Cooperative Extension Service, and she lives in Clovis, New Mexico. And we'll start the show today with Diane Romick, and she's the president and CEO of Castle Design Studio in Newport Coast, California. Diane is an interior designer herself, and she's going to explain how optical illusions can change the perception of space when designing an interior. She'll show how different illusions apply to a room. It's a very interesting concept. Diane, thank you so much for being with us today. I've always heard that decorators and designers have lots of tricks up their sleeve to accomplish things that the rest of us don't seem to be able to do, like maybe making a room seem larger or making it seem more grand or something. Is that true?
Oh, you found us out. It is true. Mm-hmm. It is true, but I'd be really happy to share some of the tricks and tips with you. Uh-huh. So many of them are based on actual optical illusions. A lot of us use these illusions without even knowing.
We don't know what we're really doing.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
This is an example of one. You might explain this to us.
Well, it's so surprising when you first glance at these graphics mm-hmm. that the horizontal lines mm-hmm. above and below, those are respectively the same exact length.
That's unbelievable. Because mm-hmm. this one looks so short.
Right?
Uh-huh. And of course that one does too, and the others the ones on the bottom look so much longer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So optical illusions.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all mysterious.
Uh-huh. Well, and looking at it in terms of a window, I think probably that's where I would think of it, because some of our houses either have windows where we really wish they weren't, or maybe they're too small, or they take up the whole wall, mm-hmm. which makes it hard to decorate from.
Right.
And using blinds, this is a good example.
What we tend to do is we say, okay, here we've got a window mm-hmm. and we've got a lot of sunshine coming in, or maybe we have privacy issues. Let's just put some inset blinds up there uh-huh. so we can still see that wood molding around it.
So these are an inside mount.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And yet what you're really doing is you're setting yourself up for the graphic illusion where the line looks shorter. Mm-hmm. The window's going to look smaller.
Yes.
And so we can go through a series of graphics and you'll see like the magical expanding window.
It's getting bigger. It's growing.
Right. Yeah. So here we've got the blinds, outside mount and a little above the window.
Uh-huh. So more of the window is available to us to either decorate or whatever we want to do with it.
Right. Right.
Okay, this was horizontal and this is vertical.
Yes, uh-huh. So now even just going vertically is such mm-hmm. a good point that you made. Even just going vertically, now you're pulling your eye up and down uh-huh. as well as the horizontal lines of the window itself pulling your eye side to side.
I see.
So automatically you've expanded that window uh-huh. and yet even those drapes aren't as good as we can do.
Okay.
So those drapes, this is just the smallest little difference, if you want to hold them both up. Mm-hmm. The smallest difference of the draperies being just close to the window.
It is, uh-huh.
Yeah, the top and the sides, compared to if the drapery rod is placed higher than the window, uh-huh. and the fabric of the drapes are really almost completely on the outside.
Uh-huh. So you've got the whole space of the window to let the beautiful outside, inside.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, now this has the rods above the window, like in the last mm-hmm. one.
Now this has the drapery not just framing the window, but really covering that entire wall. And so this is truly the very most you could do to make that window look as large as possible.
Uh-huh. And is this, when it comes down longer like this, is that an effect that we need to know about?
Well, puddling the drapery, uh-huh. I personally love it. Do you
I
like
don't
that
have any,
look?
but I've seen it in houses, and it always looked really pretty.
It's a very elegant look, and yet, you know, anybody watching this little episode who prefers clean modern lines, they're cringing.
Wouldn't like it. How do you clean
However-
around it?
Yes. However, the same effect could be had if the drapery panels were just barely touching the floor, and at the top, you know, they can have metal grommets to hold the drapes onto the rod. So there are many different ways stylistically to change that. And you know, if you look at the first blind
Oh,
compared to that very last one, we'll be able to see the little bit of an optical illusion.
this doesn't even look like the same room. I mean, the window and all. It's totally different.
Yeah, much bigger.
Much, much bigger. Okay, now do we go with solids or do we go with plaids? Do we go with what?
What happens when we choose the drapery fabric is that when you've got a busy fabric, a pattern fabric,
Like a big floral or something?
exactly, that's holding the eye. And so instead of the eye just flowing kind of out the window into the borrowed space, as the Japanese would say, and then coming back in, therefore it took longer for your mind's eye to travel around, so you think the room is bigger. But if your eye is being stopped by the fabric, then it feels like, okay, that's really truly where that wall is. And so it just ends right there. It's not a really easy thing to show, especially when the view out the window is kind of just very faded in the graphic. But just as a tip to know that patterned drapes keep the eye inside. Solid drapes let the eye go outside.
I think you can see that in the example pretty easily.
Well, good.
Okay, we've talked about windows, now floors. Do we want a definite, you know, a solid look, like with carpet? Is there any way to go wrong with that?
What happens with the flooring, of course, everyone has personal preferences, and that will always win. But flooring is a great opportunity to expand a space and to make a room truly seem significantly larger. And some of us want to have a room that seems deeper. Some of us wish that our room seemed wider. And that can be accomplished with just how the hardwood floor is run.
Which is sort of shown here. This really does make it look different.
Yeah, so if we've got the hardwood floor running lengthwise so that they're running away from us, then our eye is traveling that way,
follow it.
and it makes it appear that the room is actually longer, deeper. And in comparison, the room with the horizontal laid hardwood, that is going to pull this wall closer to your eye, if you will. But
would
the
it
room's
also
going to
make
feel wider.
Yeah, I wondered, would it make it seem wider?
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, this is a good idea for people who are planning to do some of this to put it down on paper. It really does show.
And you can see how easy was that. Take a photograph and draw on
Draw it
top of
in.
it. Why not?
You don't even have to be a real artist.
Absolutely not.
And this is where you're talking about perceived colors.
We've discussed line distortions, and now this is color distortions in the optical illusions world. So you will be surprised to know that in this top graphic, the two kind of orangey, yellowy circles, those are exactly the same color.
Well, it doesn't look it because of the background.
And you've hit the nail on the head. It's because of the background. So the way we perceive color can be changed by what it's surrounded by. But I promise, I even printed another graphic out and cut these out so you can see those are the same. And then here's another example. So if you really look at the center green and this center green, your mind is seeing two different shades of green.
This one has more of the dark element in it. This one's a brighter, happier green, it looks like. But it's the same one, isn't it?
It's the same exact green. You can see them lined up here. And what happens anatomically is that your eye always wants to see the complementary color. And so your eye is kind of auto-correcting. and
Like a
and
camera.
changing. Yes, yeah. So we've got our own little Photoshop happening here.
And then we go into warm and cool colors. I think most of us know a little bit about that, or at least we've seen color wheels. But this is
Right.
the exact same room.
Exact same room, and on this side we see warm colors. Warm colors advance towards you. So a lot of times if you're in a cold climate and you say, oh, I want the space to feel warm and cozy, go with warm colors. It'll feel cozy because it feels a little bit smaller. However, it's going to feel great, and the emotion is important as we've talked
Right.
about before. Alternatively, the cooler color room, that room, the walls, the cool colors actually recede. And so that room is going to feel a little bit bigger and a little bit cooler.
So, for instance, if a person lived in sunny California, where if it's warm most of the time, they probably would want to go with the cooler colors, like the ocean.
Right.
But then the cold Nebraska, maybe temperatures, for instance, would be an example of where we might want to make it a little warmer year-round.
Right, and it's very interesting that you talk about the geographical differences, because I would say exactly same as you. And then, of course, humans being what they are, they surprise us. We look at Scandinavia and we see that they use a lot of cool colors. And yet
Even
that's
though it's
because,
cold there.
but they're connecting to the nature that's surrounding them. So there are many, many elements. And all things are good and fair in any climate, but good to know about them in advance.
Well, it certainly is. And just looking at pictures in magazines, I bet we can look at things a lot differently now.
Right, yeah.
Thank you very much, Diane.
Thank you.
Connie, thank you so much for coming. I went to your workshop on painting chairs, bring your own chair, it said. And so I learned a lot, but you know, I think until you really get into it and start mixing and sort of playing with it, really, you don't know how much fun or what great results you can have.
You know, it's such a popular thing right now to upcycle some of these treasures that we find, and I've said my limit is free or $5 on most of the things I've done, and you really come out with a nice piece of furniture or some gift or something that you have in your house. So you can buy chalk paint, and it's just called chalk paint because it has plaster Paris or some kind of other bonding agent in there, and it's kind of chalky feeling. So I'm going to show you how to make some of your own more inexpensively. And what we need to do first is just take a measure of plaster of Paris is what I use.
And that's very inexpensive, and it comes in big quantities.
A great big bag, and I've used a lot and shared a lot, and I still have a lot. So find a friend to go with you. And then I'm going to take some hot water, and what I'm going to do is about equal proportions of
To start with.
plaster of Paris and hot water. And if you'll use the hot water, it'll blend together better, and you can get all the lumps out. And I find that some kind of disposable container, whether it's something like this or a Cool Whip bowl or a cottage cheese bowl or you know, whatever it is, works really good. And you can keep this paint, and it'll last for quite a while.
Just put a lid on it and keep it as air dry as you can.
As much as you can. And then what I like to use are samples. And some of the popular magazines last year had a lot of free things for a sample, or you know, sometimes you can get them again very inexpensively because it really goes a long ways. And so I'm going to put some of this paint in here. And
Well, what's the reasoning for using chalk paint versus just buying this color red paint?
like I said, it's just a different look, but it also is a bonding agent, so you don't have to do as much sanding preparation. You could take some furniture that is like almost like a Formica or that laminate finish that we see sometimes that's less expensive, and sand it just a little bit to rough it up, not to get it all off, but just
so the paint will grab it.
And this plaster of Paris will help it grab to that. And so I just want to mix this up, and you know, you can see it kind of almost makes like a pudding-like consistency or
That is what it
something
looks like.
in that. And I put on gloves, Sheryl. I'm not a kind of a messy painter, but I've already painted and finished part of this frame, and it was just an inexpensive frame. Or you know how sometimes you don't use them anymore, or you find a box of them at a garage sale or in your attic or something like that. And this was kind of a real slick frame, and so I did sand it just a little bit. And when I did, you know, that kind of helped it give me a better place to adhere. And you use the cheapest brush that you can buy, and you can rinse it out, but you don't even have to clean it real good, because the stiffer it is, it just works better to do all this.
Would you ever use those sponge brushes, or is the bristle
I like
better?
these. I like these bristle brushes, and
Now this will dry pretty fast.
It
won't
does. It's amazing how fast it dries, and you can see too the color, how bright that is, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't like that color of red. But we're going to make an aging wax to put on it, and it's going to make a difference.
That'll tone it down, kind of a patina.
And so you can see some of the other projects we've done. That blue chair is a chair that I got for free at an auction because nobody wanted it, and it was in bad shape, and it sat in my yard for a year, and I watered it with my plants every day, had no finish of any kind, and that color was bright electric when I put it on there, and I'm thinking, what have I done? But when I put my wax on there, and we're going to talk about the wax here in just a second, it worked really good. And
so that chair was
toned it
done,
down.
and like I was asking you earlier, how does it withstand the elements, rain, snow, whatever, sun?
And I have another piece of furniture that I've done and left it outside without a cover on it, you know, no porch. And it's done real well. I probably need to put some more wax on it. The paint still looks great under it. But that's the nice thing about the wax, and what we're using.
And this is another example,
It
this
is.
picture frame.
And you know, we can buy this chalkboard paint, is real popular on everything. So you can make your own chalkboard paint with black, or if you wanted another color, you can still write on it with chalk, because it's a rougher surface. Or you can buy the chalkboard paint. And one of those is an old cabinet door I've done, and the other one is a metal filing cabinet.
Oh, so you can paint on metal or wood.
And my two favorite things I've done are on metal, two filing cabinets that I've done. And I've put the chalkboard paint on the front of the drawers, like that one. So
that's
that
a
one's
good
worked
idea.
really good for me to do that. Now, to do the wax,
This is
you
the
just
kind
take
we
a
usually
paste
buy.
wax of some kind, and it's clear, and they're sort of clear, and there's another one that, another brand that's kind of green, and I thought, but no, it works fine. And then we just take a really dark stain. And so I like to do some in another container, and so I'll put my wax in there and kind of stir it up and start to get it softened a little bit. And then I just dribble, and don't be tempted to pour, but I just take a spoon and dribble a little bit in there, and then I usually mix it with a paint stirrer so that it can be mixed up and try to get it as soft as possible.
I see. So you may have some old stains left from a project.
Sure.
And so
you could
but just
redo
use a
that.
little bit. That's
And
important.
then, you again, you don't have to clean this brush at all. Matter of fact, they get pretty bad, and you can tell that's why I've got the gloves on to do this. I have already distressed and done part of this
How do you
frame with the wax.
Sandpaper or a
Well,
sander?
you can use sandpaper, but you know, my husband had this really great tool that and
So you
has
took
not
it
gotten
over.
back into his workshop at all. So this part's still wet. We won't do it, but. I kind of like to just do the wear points, you know, where it looks like it would have been worn.
Especially
And then
those corners.
I take a cloth or sometimes this soft bristle brush and just brush some of that dust off.
Sure.
And then we just wipe this stuff on.
Oh,
And
I
you
do
can-
like that color better. It's softer.
You can let it set on there for 30 minutes or even part of a day, if depending on. That's the nice thing about this project. Nothing you have to get in a big hurry about, but it also, you don't have to let it dry forever before you go on. But you can see that we've just kind of globbed that on there, And some woods would take that stain a little bit more and make that a little bit darker. This one didn't. But then we just take a soft cloth of some kind and wipe off what we want. And if we want some more dark, we can add
it on.
Add some more dark or do whatever. And so we're going to pretend this whole thing is finished. And I just took some scrapbook paper and some cardstock. And we can just stick that in there, and decided not to carry the glass with me, but you can put glass, and sometimes people don't want glass over the top either. So put that over it.
That is a quick and easy project.
Quick and easy gift or finished project. Now, some things, especially dark things, and so I thought this would be good. I like to dry brush. And what you do to dry brush, and sometimes people aren't real sure about that, is this is some light colored chalk paint that I've already mixed up.
It's chalk paint as well. Okay.
So I've already mixed it, but I'm going to take a plate or something and kind of just dab this on here. You know, did you ever stipple stuff?
Yes.
Or stencil stuff? And that's kind of the same process that we're going to do with this. And then you just need to have a light hand, and you can go over it until you have.
But start out light. You can always add more.
And if you decide you don't like it dry brushed, then you can just paint the whole thing. You know, just cover it. But I have a chair over there that I dry brushed, and it was a real dark chair. And at first I didn't really like the dry brush on the streaky look. I love that chair. It's one of my favorite because it's just brought out. And then you could do it with the wax, the darkened wax, but because underneath there was already pretty dark, I just did it with clear wax.
Oh, okay. That's just to add a protective finish.
And you know the nice thing about that wax finish, I did a little table, and on that table I just set everything I have in my house is antique furniture that, you know, you don't set stuff directly on the wood, but I can set a glass on there and it's never mess the top of it.
No water rings or anything like that?
And if it does, I can just put a little bit more wax on top and it really gives a good hard finish. And you can just keep adding that until you get the finish that you really want.
Well, and I know you were talking about the little chair, and if you start out with it dark, that just really sort of saves one extra step. So that's a good tip. Well, what did you do? Is this the same thing?
That's just a vase that somebody got a flower abundant vase or something from the florist. And I used the Vaseline, and I just put it again kind of at the wear points. Lightly on there, spray painted it.
Because obviously you wouldn't sand it.
Yeah, spray painted it. After the paint dries, you just wipe it off, and that part's clear.
That keeps that paint from adhering to the glass. Well, what a clever idea. Now, is that the same technique you used here?
It is the same over there, and you know, we all have old frames, or again, you find them at garage sales or auctions or something. I took the matte part out of that, you know, the fabric mat out of it, and then I used the Vaseline on there, spray painted it, wiped it, and we put chicken wire on the back, and so it makes a nice message board or a picture board or something like that. And so
cute way to show our grandkids.
That's right. I have it hanging on my office door so everybody sees it.
Well, that is so cute. Well, it really is amazing how the chalkboard look is so popular.
It is.
And then how many different ways. I thought you had to always use black for chalkboard paint, so this is great to make it coordinate with your house.
It's a lot of fun to do.
Well, it looks like it. Connie, thanks so much.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the show today. Next time on Creative Living, we'll learn how to make some cuff bracelets. We'll talk about why breakfast is the best meal of the day, and we'll show how to make some easy designs with edger punches. One of the guests on the next show is a designer and crafter, and she's teamed up with Sissix to show how to make some easy and fun custom bracelets using shape cutters from her own collection. She'll also show a wide variety of materials for making these bracelets, which go from casual to quite elegant. What makes breakfast the best meal of the day? We'll talk to a registered dietitian and author who's going to answer this question for us. She'll also discuss the use of My Plate to determine what to eat at every meal, and it makes food choices so much easier. And finally, we'll show you a variety of border punch projects that can be used for scrapbook layouts, for cards, as gifts, and even for home decor items. And these are really easy to do. I hope you'll plan to join me next time for Creative Living.
We are very pleased to offer a special booklet that accompanies this series of Creative Living. We are celebrating our 40th year on PBS. This booklet is titled the 40th Anniversary Series, and it features a wonderful collection of ideas and information, and it's available free of charge on our website. Posted as a PDF file, you can simply download the entire booklet or just the segments you're most interested in. For your copy of this commemorative booklet, go to our website at kenw.org and then click on Creative Living. Scroll down to the booklet section and you can click on this booklet or on any of the other booklets we have available online. We would like to invite you to sign up for our free e-newsletter too. Go to kenw.org and click on the Sign Up Now button and input your email address. That's all there is to it. We would also like to ask you to become a fan of Creative Living on Facebook. Go to facebook.com and in the search window type in Creative Living with Sheryl Borden. Thanks so much. We look forward to hearing from you.